What if Candace actually busted Phineas and Ferb? No time travel shenanigans to reset the day, no timelines being erased, no Inators wiping memories, no. We're talking about a straight up bust. What would happen if Linda managed to see Phineas and Ferb's doings at long last for real? Would they get in trouble, or would the mom just be proud to see their inventions? Would Candace finally be at peace? How would the boys take it? And what would happen to society as a whole as we know it? Well, let's find out. Let's begin with the most important question. How would Linda react upon seeing one of Phineas and Ferb's contraptions? Although a wide variety of Inators and inventions would always fix it all in the end, the boys did get busted once or twice in the past. And every time that happened, their mom's reaction was always the same. She was livid and mad at them for what they built. To us, what the boys do is amazing and brilliant, and therefore would only deserve praise and recognition, right? Wouldn't you love to find out your sons were child prodigies? Well, that's a shame, yours are idiots, but still, you'd be proud of them if they were geniuses. However, that's not really the case for Linda. For instance, the day she saw the old-timey pioneer town the boys built, and if you wanna know what happened there, check out this video, she was furious and decided to punish and ground the boys for good. And now you may ask, why? Well, Linda can actually be pretty overprotective when she wants, and in general, she doesn't condone such risky activities, because, objectively speaking, most of the things the boys build are extremely dangerous. In her eyes, they're doing something reckless they shouldn't be doing, and therefore need to get punished. As she said in Phineas and Ferb Get Busted, she wouldn't be able to live with herself if they ever got hurt.
I'm sorry, but this is really for your own good. We need you both to understand that what you've been doing is way too dangerous.
And even though she said that in a dream sequence, that's what she would have said in real life as well. Generally, either the invention itself is extremely unsafe, or at the very least, simply building it is. We can mention the times Phineas and Ferb put themselves in mortal danger when they fought aliens, traveled to outer space or through time, endangering not only themselves but also the rest of humanity, but that's also the case for some more basic and down-to-earth inventions. Those aren't that safe either. Think of the skyscraper to the moon, the cattle drive, the chariot race, or the paper pelican plane. Heck, even something apparently harmless like their observatory would still make Linda furious, simply because building it isn't something a responsible parent would want his or her children to do. Whether you like it or not, those two are still kids, and using tools of any kind, drills, jackhammers, blowtorches, circular saws, is extremely dangerous, and no parent would ever allow their 8-year-old kids to use them. Of course, we know they can handle them, and we know they know how to use them safely, but the thought process is, what if something goes wrong? Usually it doesn't, because those two are extremely responsible and prudent, but that's not always the case. In episodes like Mindshare, Voyage to the Bottom of Buford, and It's About Time, to name a few, things went wrong, and either the boys or someone else ended up in serious danger because of their shenanigans. So no matter what, Linda would ground the boys and force them to stop doing whatever they're doing. No matter how smart they are, they're minors, and it's the parents' responsibility to make sure they're safe, regardless of their IQ. However, even though there are a few isolated cases, we should probably mention the exceptions to this. After all, truly harmless activities like their one-hit song, their campaign to raise awareness for the aglet, or their new language, they would be innocuous enough for Linda to do nothing but shower her sons with praise. And also, perhaps, a little curiosity. She's probably one of those parents who get super into their kids' things and get way more excited than the kids themselves. Witnessing something safe and normal like this, though, it wouldn't really convince Linda of the validity of everything else Candace ever told her. The mom needs to see those crazy inventions with her own eyes in order to believe her, and if she sees something that's completely harmless or just in line for a pair of creative and inventive 8-year-olds, like the fort or the non-functioning animal translator, then Linda wouldn't really have enough proof to believe Candace and her rants about those ridiculous monstrosities, as she calls them. On the other hand, if she were to catch them red-handed while building or using one of their crazier contraptions, then she would obviously and instantly realize everything else Candace told her must be true as well. And her reaction there would be pretty much rage every single time. So now that we got that covered, we should ask ourselves, what would happen to the boys once they get busted? Again, the episode Phineas and Ferb Get Busted, fittingly enough, sees Linda punish the boys and send them to some creepy Clockwork Orange-style reform school that reprograms children so that they never misbehave again, which is a little dark for the show's standards. However, all that was just part of a dream inside of another dream, and I doubt Linda would go to such extreme lengths in real life as well. She would likely just ground them to teach them to be more responsible and that they cannot do whatever they want without their parents' permission. Yet, that's not exactly where it ends, because there would be unforeseen consequences and very peculiar repercussions that go beyond a simple scolding from Linda and Lawrence, and we really need to talk about those. As seen in Phineas and Ferb's Quantum Boogaloo, right after the timeline got altered and Linda caught the boys on the first day of summer, the sensational news of these reckless 8-year-olds building a freaking huge roller coaster downtown got out, and word quickly spread, pushing overprotective parents in all of Danville to ban all things fun and unique. This eventually led to children being child-proofed and stored away until adulthood so that something that irresponsible would never happen again, and the general havoc allowed Dr. Doofenshmirtz to quickly rise to power and become emperor. It's important to note though that all that happened just because of a very specific set of circumstances. It was all a huge butterfly effect. Because of the specific events that happened that day, Perry accidentally got injured and had to stay in a full body cast for a year and a half, which allowed Dr. Doof to be unopposed and easily rise to power. So because there was no one there to foil his schemes, or listen and help him through his countless childhood traumas, he eventually became emperor. So obviously, in any other case, Linda finding out about the boys' inventions wouldn't necessarily result in Perry getting hurt and being unable to fight Doof, so their storyline would proceed just the same. With Perry up and running, Heinz wouldn't be able to become emperor, so there likely wouldn't be any dystopia there. It's important to note though that depending on how crazy the invention Linda finds out about is, not only would the punishment inflicted on Phineas and Ferb differ, but so would the reactions of overprotective parents in the tri-state area. Of course, their punishment and the parents' reaction would be proportional to how wild and dangerous the invention is. In most cases, parents would surely still ban potentially harmful activities, and in case one of Phineas and Ferb's wilder inventions happened to make the news, the Peritronic, the Monster Truck Track, or the Trojan War reenactment, they might actually go as far as to store children away like in the dystopian future. After all, it wasn't really Doof who had that idea, it was all just due to the parents worrying, and nobody ever forced them to do that. Instead, something like their ice cream maker or the robotic platypus butt would be enough for Linda to ground them, but not enough for the boys to make the news and scare parents in the tri-state area. I guess this doesn't mean that some other wicked person, such as another evil scientist or a heartless politician, Roger, couldn't take Doof's spot in the Boogaloo episode and become an oppressive ruler in his place. Still, I imagine that with Perry unharmed, Auka would probably task him with fighting this new threat, and given Perry's skill level, I'm pretty sure he could handle it. So basically, there's some sort of range or spectrum of different scenarios that go from the boys building a harmless and creative invention and Linda being proud of them for it, to them building something so crazy that it leads to an unstable man rising to power and ruling the tri-state area with an iron fist. It's really up to you to decide which invention causes what. Maybe here we can place their one-hit song Ichi Gichi Goo, and here we can place, I don't know, maybe the time machine. Not the tie machine, the time machine. The time machine was actually pretty harmless. Finally, we should take one last factor into account. How would life change for Candace and for the boys? What are the deeper implications of all this for all of them in the long run? In episodes like Bolorama, the girl imagined the day she would finally bust her brothers as this perfect moment where her parents would both apologize to her for never believing her and even allow her to ruin the family financially by giving her free and complete access to their finances. She also thought Jeremy would be so proud of her he would ask her to marry him. Maybe she overdid it a bit, but essentially, yes, she would feel so accomplished at first, and she would indeed re-earn her parents' trust and respect. Yet, it would only be a pretty small victory for her because things would soon take a turn for the worse. Very soon. In fact, it's safe to assume Candace would eventually realize that busting her brothers was a mistake. Because she obviously cares deeply for her brothers, seeing them grounded and upset, forbidden from building new contraptions, it would soon make her regret busting them in the first place. She would even make sure Linda isn't too harsh on them either. In fact, things wouldn't exactly work out great for the boys. You see, even though Phineas and Ferb are good guys and responsible kids who generally never go against their parents' wishes, they clearly suffer from some sort of invention withdrawal when they go too long without actually building something. So while forbidden from building crazy contraptions, they would either lose all their creativity and individuality, like they did in the reformatory, or they would eventually start building stuff behind their mother's back, because they just can't live without an outlet for their creativity. And even though there's a chance they might stay good and give up on their creativity, the second option is still more likely in my opinion. Those two just gotta keep themselves busy all the time, otherwise they just lose it. Let's not forget, they once managed to break free from the effect of Doof's dull and boring Inator, a machine specifically designed to turn people into lifeless and uninteresting individuals, and they went back to their creative selves in just a couple of hours. There is just no stopping them. They would keep on inventing even without their parents' permission. What would happen next then? Well, this may seem like a bit of a headcanon, but I feel like Candace wouldn't want her parents to get even madder at the boys than they already are. So because of her guilt and the weight on her conscience, she would likely spend her days making sure Phineas and Ferb do not get caught again. So to make up for stripping their freedom away, she would cover up for them and make sure their mom doesn't find out what they're up to, effectively turning the tables and turning the family dynamics upside down. After all, what Candace wanted was simply for the truth to be known, for justice to be made, and things to be fair, since whatever irresponsible or potentially bustable thing she did, her mother would always see it and punish her for it. Plus, because Linda is now convinced her daughter is insane, Candace naturally wants to prove her wrong. What Candace wouldn't want to see though is for her brothers to suffer and lose their spark. Sure, it wouldn't hurt to see their mom put them in their place, and she wouldn't hate to receive some validation from her, but seeing her brothers completely stripped of their creativity, enthusiasm, and will to live, or even their freedom and morals, as they would eventually start disobeying their parents, that's not what Candace is aiming at. She never was. And even though that episode was just a dream, in Phineas and Ferb Get Busted, Candace soon regretted busting the boys and went on a mission to rescue them and get them back. It's not a canonical event, technically, but it's still what the writers had in mind for her character were she to finally expose them. So there you have it. This is what would happen if Candace actually managed to bust her brothers. Let me know in the comments if this scenario intrigues you and if you'd like to see them in trouble too, or if you're still convinced things would eventually work out for the boys in the end anyway. I tried to stay true to the writer's vision and to use the show's episodes to back up my logic, but do let me know your thoughts on this as well, I'm really curious. With that being said, I thank you all so much for watching, and let me know if you have some requests, or if you'd like me to cover certain topics when it comes to Phineas and Ferb. The revival is approaching, so if you have requests, let me know. Again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Ciao!